Ooh, boy, lessons are about to be learned, aren't they? Welcome back to another video where I talk about the Promised Neverland anime, second season, this time episode 8, I believe, and Norman is learning some major lessons in this episode, I think so, boop, boop, boop. Alright, I don't want to talk like that anymore. Either way, this was quite the episode. It started slow, and then it continued ramping up into some real good stuff until, oh my god, the ending. I don't know how to feel about Norman right now. I guess I should just start off by talking about the Institute, Lambda, where Norman ultimately got sent off to. Apparently, he was just so smart that they were like, all right, we're going to use him for experiments. And honestly, I think the most interesting part about the whole facility, we end up meeting this guy, James Rafty? Oh god, I'm so bad with names, and it's just there's so many characters. I think it's Rafty. Either way, we end up meeting like this like head scientist. He's like the one in charge of the Lambda lab and kind of doing all kinds of things. I think the most interesting thing about the whole lab is like like both humans and demons working together kind of like side by side, and the fact that a human is in charge. Meanwhile you have like, oh, like it's just like, oh, here's this demon watching the security camera kind of thing. So it's interesting to see the dynamic between the humans and the demons, because normally in our heads we're thinking, okay, well, the demons are like full control, and they are still, but it's interesting to see humans working side by side with the demons to do something really kind of truly awful. But it's in this flashback that we see Norman meeting Vincent, the guy with the glasses and like the weird scarring slash stitching on his head, and the other people that are part of his crew, and they were like all being experimented on. And now we learn a little bit about this facility in that, and by just being shown. So some people are experimented on by like via drugs, I assume. Some people are experimented on, I think, via like some kind of like just how they interact with the demons. And people like Norman, who are there for their minds, are experimented on more just like testing. They're more testing. I assume Vincent had like his head like freaking cracked open and whatever, but like Norman, as far as we know, he was being drugged by like some pills or whatever, and that's probably why he's choking up blood and doing all that jazz. But for the most part, he's just taking these tests, like very similar tests to the ones that they were taking. He was taking at the farm, Gracefield, which I've always thought these tests were really interesting because it's not like they're writing with a pen and paper or even just like answering specific questions or whatever with English or whatever language they're doing. It's always these like barcodes, and they have to scan the correct barcode with the right like symbol in front of them. It's very interesting. I like it a lot. I think it shows some weird. It's kind of a cross between some like super futuristic thing and kind of one of the like it's almost like a real futuristic kind of thing, like what we would expect now futuristic things to be like, but then also like what people back in like the 60s and 70s assumed like the year like 2000 would be like, where it's like, oh, barcodes and whatever. So it's kind of an interesting cross between those two things, between what we think the future is like now and what people 40 years ago thought the future would be like. But I digress. Norman's getting tests. He's kind of slipping little pieces of paper into this like a Rubik's Cube thing to talk to Vincent secretly, and it kind of bubbles over to the point where he's constantly thinking in his head. He's seeing all these people getting ripped apart. And we get this nice shot of like scientists walking down this hallway. I think it might be Norman like being escorted to his room or something like that. But it's like one side you have basically like this colorful like room with a bunch of people that are just basically being like, I think that's supposed to be their like cells or whatever, where they're just like, oh, they're like treated like animals, like cattle or whatever. Although I don't, I'm not even gonna say better because it's like whatever, but like they're like in a puffy room, and on the other side you got demons like ripping people apart and stuff. It's a good juxtaposition. Because then you also move past like the like drug experimentations with people like chained up to chairs and they got like IVs in them, and it's a horrifying situation. And Norman has to see all of this, even if he's not being specifically experimented on like those other people. In any event, Norman continues. The gears start turning. He kind of makes a plan with Vincent, and eventually he makes a detonator and blows the place up. And it's very, very subtle, but his informant from Minerva is kind of also there. We see him kind of like looking a little bit like sad about like the main scientist going off about how he's not going to be a gatekeeper anymore. He's going to be the super duper guy in the world. And he kind of makes a face, and I kind of thought, oh, that's interesting to see like other people that are not necessarily on board with this, but are kind of part of the system. But it ends up being that's the guy that like gives Norman the pen and is the Minerva informant for him. And so the facility gets blown up. Norman saved the people that he has on his team, and they first of all, he's called God, which is a total like that's you never like. Norman to entertain, like obviously he doesn't fully entertain it. He's just their boss or whatever, but like the fact that what's her face, I don't remember her name, the girl that's kind of a psychopath, calls him God at first, sets off red flags right away, because it's like he is saving them with Vincent, and I only really know his name because they say his name in the freaking episode, and because I'm terrible with names. But the two of them save their friends, and she calls him like, "Oh, are you God?" And that's like a terrible situation to be in, because it's like she's been so destroyed mentally and physically that anybody that's doing remotely good things for her is immediately going to be like a deity to her. So that's a whole situation. And clearly it's like he is some kind of savior to them. And that's messed up, because he's just as damaged as them, which is awful, which is just terrible. So that's the flashback. That's basically the beginning of the episode. The middle section is kind of basically some stuff of Norman. He's gonna do his plan even without Ray and Emma on board or whatever, and he's getting his like ducks in a row. Ray and Emma and Don and Gilda are off looking for Sonju and Mujika. They're off in the woods. They're marking off places in the map. And eventually they get tracked and attacked by one of those big, like, dumb demons that just basically is like a monster. Just when you think Emma's about to get eaten, Sonju and Mujika come in and save the day, and they're like, yeah, we found them. We still got like a day or so left. We're good to go. And that's when everything kind of goes to hell. Norman has set his plan off. He's causing explosions in that town that they were all like kind of just going in and out of, and the gas drug that he has been experimenting with is kind of going all over the place. And it's this horrifying situation. You have these demons that are just like, listen, it's a very complex situation. I'm not gonna like sugarcoat anything. Demons are eating humans, and humans want to kill the demons for that, and it's a whole cycle of hatred and all that jazz. But you see these children, and their parents are turning into like even further monsters, like the big monster in the woods, and they're all just like freaking out. You have children crying, and loved ones like holding on to their dead, whatever, wives, husbands, children, whatever. And it's this horrifying scene. And Norman and his crew are like there, and they're just like causing trouble. They're like, whatever. Norman's like, they're basically to take it in, because I bet he was expecting it to be like, oh yeah, all these asshole monsters, they're gonna be monsters now. They are demons. They eat humans. Of course, I want to turn them into monsters and have them eat each other. Norman gets a reality check, at least a little bit, and it's definitely going to cause some issues for him and his crew later on down. As all hell is breaking loose, he's kind of just standing around. He's got a Tonto in his hand, and he's about to kill this little girl, and she's crying, and she's looking for her grandpa, and lo and behold, it is the old demon that was hanging out in the kid's hideout and like offering stuff to that altar. And even more crazy is the fact that the little girl, her name's Emma. So that kind of throws a huge wrench in Norman's like mental psyche. He's already kind of starting to have second thoughts, because he's seeing all these kids crying over their parents, and it's a whole mess. And he is like struggling so much to kind of like get his resolve back in. And hearing the little girl's name is Emma, it just completely breaks him. But he's just about to kill her and the old man, and that's when there's a big explosion again. More gas floods this like courtyard that they're in, And the little girl starts changing because she's a demon, she's whatever, and she presumably eats human in some capacity, whether it be from the markets where there's just like selling hands and stuff, or whatever. And that's when it's interesting because the old man demon does not start changing. And that really sets off Norman because he realizes this old man is not a human eater. He's one of the people that has the blood in him or whatever. Maybe he's consumed it from Mujika or whatever, or maybe he's a descendant of some demon that maybe it's a bloodline thing. I don't know. But for whatever reason, he does not change with the gas. And that sets off Norman even more. He takes his Tonto or his like his sword and is about to run the old man through or the kid through or whatever, both of them. And the old man puts his hand out in front of him so that it like blocks the blade, pulls his hand away from it, and has the little girl drink the blood, and that kind of reverts her degradation. And what's interesting is though the old man is blind, right? He clearly understood what was going on as soon as he arrived in the town and was like gonna go looking for Emma, his granddaughter. So maybe he knows a bit more about like the whole situation than we know about him. I hope he sticks around because I want him and Emma and Ray and the kids to like talk because they never got that chance before to really talk, and especially since they didn't know he didn't know at the time that they were humans. Now he'll presumably know. He knows at least Norman's a human because his granddaughter looked at him and it was like, you're a human. What the heck's going on here? But in any case, Norman is like kind of going off the reservation here. And he's like, I gotta commit. I have to kill them. This is just gonna have to happen. He's about to kill an old man and his granddaughter as all hell is breaking loose. And just as he pulls up his blade to slash them down, Emma, Ray, Gilda, Don, and I think Mujika and Sonju are there too. They all arrive. Emma's like, Norman, what the shit? And that's basically the end of the episode. Well, okay, it's not the end of the episode per se. I mean, it is the last scene overall. But there's some interesting little bits here and there. Just as he like Norman turns around to see Emma and they kind of lock eyes. And in that moment, Emma's seeing him as like a young child. And it's like, this is kind of what I wanted out of this series in a lot of ways. It shows it's such a more complex situation because even though the demons are eating humans and they are farming them and doing horrible experiments to humans, and it's just an awful situation, there are also kind of regular normal demons who are just living in towns, kind of minding their own business. Yes, they're still eating humans, but no more in a way that like humans eat other animals. So it's like it's hard to know what's right and what's wrong, especially with young children involved and elderly people. It's wholly messed up. There's no right and wrong. There's no clear right and wrong in this whole situation. So this is kind of what I really like about this. And honestly, once this whole situation's done, I hope that Ray, Emma, Sonjun, Mujika, and the old man and the little girl kind of get together and talk. I hope that they all kind of get away. And the old man, even if he ends up dying later on, I want him to have a conversation with Emma and have there be an open dialogue about it. Well, Norman's off having a mental breakdown and coughing up blood from the drugs and experiments that he had. I don't see him lasting the entirety of the series. I don't know what they plan on doing with him because he's clearly like sick with something and the others are having like strokes and stuff like that. So I don't know. But overall, this was a really good episode, I thought. It was very quick. Honestly, it was like the kind of thing where it was like, we got the flashback. Then they did some stuff in the middle, and I was like, okay, this is like good stuff. And then the ending with the town being like burned down and the gas going everywhere, it felt super quick. And I think that's one of the like hallmarks of a good episode sometimes, where it's just like it ends and you're like, okay, come on, let's do more. I want more. So that's all I really got to say about this episode. I enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments section. And if you enjoyed anything I had to say, leave a like. Greatly appreciate it. I will see you guys in another video. So long.